how I would start in UX design from zero in 2025. My name is Ines, I'm a principal product designer and a hiring manager with 15 years of experience, and in today's video I will give you strategies and tips that I know for sure works and that saves a lot of time for my students when they are starting in UX design. Let's go. So as I said, I started working in UX design 15 years ago, almost 16 actually, and of course the landscape that we had there was quite different from what we have today. But I teach UX design daily in my own school UX bag, the link will be down in the description, and I also hire for the companies I work at, and I know what strategies work for sure so that one can start working in UX design in the fastest way. So if I had to start in UX design today, the first stage I would acknowledge is the get to know stage. At this stage, I would probably not take any decisions on quitting my job, on joining a bootcamp, because I'm not yet that familiar with what UX design entails in the day-to-day life. I would estimate this stage to be a month or month and a half, where I would be just learning what UX designers are doing daily, how their work looks, where do they work, what do they need for their work, do I overall like the people that work in the industry. I would not spend any money at this point. I would get by with watching YouTube videos, maybe talking with people who are working already in the industry and getting to know the first-hand information. The thing is that I would start with this stage to adjust my expectations, because UX design is not a hobby you can try for 1-2 months and then drop it. It's a career, it's a profession, and it is a profession that is taught in universities. So I would acknowledge that it is a big decision, possibly even life-changing, and I would not expect it or aim it to be a fast transition, because it requires a lot of investments, a change in the lifestyle, possibly a change in the location where you live, and everything about your life will be revolving around UX design for quite some time. So I would make sure that UX design fits me personally, and I see myself working in this field, maybe not for the whole life, but for a part of it, maybe for 5 years, 10 years. I have spent there 15 years and counting, and I do not regret anything. And this is definitely a profession where I could fulfill my passions and ambitions and meet people that I really like and enjoy working with. So it is a very important decision, and at this preliminary phase you get to take this decision. Then when I would start feeling that UX design is something really interesting for me and I would love to try it, I would go to the next stage. And in this stage I recommend everyone to start learning Figma. And learning Figma is not such a big investment. You also don't need to spend any money there yet. I actually have a free Figma course for complete beginners on this channel, so go and check it out, because you can definitely learn Figma for free and it will give you a nice foundation to start learning UX design later on. Because when you will decide to join a course or a bootcamp or hire a mentor, they will give you practical tasks. And to fulfill these tasks, it's best when you already have a tool at hand. And actually, I believe that learning Figma is also fun because the tool is pleasant to work with, it has a good UI, it has a good user experience, so everything that we love about this profession as UX UI designers, it is there in Figma. On top of that, I think it is a nice hands-on practice, because this is the tool you will be working every day in your UX design career. It is something that you fire up every morning and close at the end of your day. So in my opinion, it is important to understand if you like the tool, if you see yourself opening it up daily. And when I would start feeling that seeing Figma's interface is not imposing any stress on me, that I'm actually feeling quite inspired having it open, I feel that I can achieve anything that I want within this tool, this is the time for me to move forward. And at the next stage, I would start learning the basics of UX design. Because UI design is only one part of the UX UI design field or product design field, and you would definitely need to master them all. But I know myself, and I know that at this point, although I have watched all the videos about the UX design and I know how the day-to-day life of a UX designer looks like, and I have mastered the tool I will be using the most, I might not be ready yet to invest a huge pile of money on a bootcamp, for example, because I still need to have more basic and foundational information that I would love to get at a lower price tag. And in my opinion, the best fitting course for this purpose that we have currently on the market is the Google UX certification course on Coursera. I actually made a video about if this course is the right fit for you. This course is definitely not solving all of the problems. It will not get you a job after you have finished it. But if you will approach this course as your first program with the low commitment and the lower entry level, this course will bring you miracles because it will explain to you the solid basics of UX design work. It will teach you the lingo that we use daily, and all of that on the nicely done short videos that are produced by Google with a lot of animations, with examples, and overall it is a nice experience for the price tag that they have on it. But to make the transition to UX design even faster, I would account for the weakest point of this course and I would figure out what to do with it. The weakest point of the Google UX certification course on Coursera is that you have no mentors there and you have no one there to ask questions. And believe me, you're going to have all sorts of questions. And if you are like me, you value the speed of transition because, in my opinion, the resource that we cannot fulfill in our lives is time. So I would approach the Google UX design course with that in mind, and I would ensure that prior to starting on the course, I would find myself a mentor or a UX design community. I have created the UX Club specifically for this purpose, helping people to learn the basics of UX design and navigate them in their career transition. There we do weekly events, I answer questions, we have discussions, and you can have there my personal mentorship and guidance because I pay closer attention to every person's career case. And that's why we limit the number of people in the club. And I'm sorry if you will check out the link down below and you will see that all places are sold out. Then please be patient and join the waitlist. And on top of that, you will have there a community of UX designers that you can interact with and share your challenges. But it doesn't have to be my club, of course. There are a lot of other offerings on the market. You can even find a free mentor. You can maybe ask your friend who is working in UX design to mentor you and answer your questions. The only thing to care about here is that you have someone to ask questions, that you are not lost, and if you are not losing the motivation. Because this course will take you 2-3 months to finish if you are fast, and they will also be giving you some assignments to try out what they are teaching. And I see that many people that are starting on this course with high motivation, then they got lost in the middle, they have no one to ask questions, the peer review at Coursera objectively is not working, and they lose motivation and they never complete the transition. So I would want to avoid it for myself if I am about to make a career switch and if I'm going to do this in the fastest way possible. Also, at this stage, because I did not do a huge money commitment, I can always back up, because I don't know, if I would be starting in UX design in 2025, I would definitely take into account that this work requires a lot of sitting and a lot of alignments with different job functions, and my day will be filled up with meetings and I will be working against tight deadlines. And maybe this is something to consider. And I think by the end of this stage, when you have completed the Google UX certification, you have had a practical experience of how it will be. So if at the end of this stage I would eventually decide that UX design is not my piece of cake, which is completely fine, the worst thing that has happened is that I have learned how digital products are created. And provided that tech is everywhere right now, even if you go work in retail, you will find out that it is tech enabled. And I think this information about how UX design works is helpful not only in UX design, but also if you work in marketing, if you work as a developer, as an analyst. So in any professional field, knowing a bit about how we find a problem, how we talk with users, how we prototype and test our solutions will give you a nice idea of how this tech world is functioning overall. And also, maybe I have met some people in the clubs or some mentors that I can keep in touch, and who knows, maybe at some point we will even work with each other. But if at this point I decide that yes, I want in, UX design is completely for me, I see myself working in it, then it's great, because the next stage will require a lot of work. I believe that before you start building your final portfolio that will eventually get you hired, you will need to learn UI design in detail. Because in Google UX design course, you will find it out that they are not teaching you UI design that thoroughly. Your user interface that you will create while studying in the Google UX course will be not yet at the industry standard. It will be slightly better if you are working with a mentor, but after you have finished this course, elevating your UI skill will be your major priority. I have a video on this channel about what I would do to improve my UI design skills. It has all the information that I know, all the tips and the overall approach that I recommend to take. So go and watch this video because I don't really want to repeat this here. But the major idea is that you would need to train your eyes and to train your hands in order to perfect this skill. And on top of that, you will need to ensure that you have feedback. This is, in my opinion, the fastest way through this phase. Just real quick here, what do I mean by training your eyes? Actually, the modern world has given me a perfect metaphor for it to explain what I mean. So, our brain apparently functioning just a bit like the artificial intelligence. So, if you want from yourself to be able to produce a nice looking user interface, you will first need to feed yourself with the nice examples of user interfaces that others has created. And what I would do myself and what I recommend my students is that they start their days on Dribbble or on other websites that collect nice inspirations for user interface. The Dribbble is just the most famous one. It's basically the Instagram for user interface and UX designers. So I would start my day with casually scrolling through what do I see here, analyzing what I like, saving, commenting, and doing those types of interactions in order to just simply understand what is even required, what level of user interface design is there on the market. But we have, of course, a crucial difference between how artificial intelligence is functioning and the human brain. Because in human brain, we actually don't vividly recall what we see. That's why this habit of scrolling through nice looking user interfaces will have to be there with you throughout your career. And no joke, this is something that I do even now. It's often when I start my day with pouring myself coffee, opening up Dribbble and just seeing what's in there and see if there is something that I like, maybe some new trends that I want to explore and things like that. So this is an absolutely necessary step, because if you don't know what is the current bar in the industry, you will never be able to achieve it. But it's not yet it. The second part is to train your hands. Because again, a crucial difference between us and the generative AI is that we have this gap between what impulses we have in our brains and how well our hand can realize it on paper or on a canvas. You might know this gap already if you ever tried to draw an object. It might happen that you clearly see a glass of water in front of you, but when you try to draw it on a piece of paper, you will find out that it is all skewed. And it is completely normal. This is the gap we need to bridge in user interface design as well. That's why practice comes first here. So what I would do myself is that I would find a UI challenge or other sort of practice, ensuring that I open up Figma and create a piece of user interface every day. Because only through the constant repetition, you can eventually bridge this gap. Believe me, there is no shortcut. I have never seen a person going straight from watching what they see in user interface design and producing the same quality results. And again, to make the transition to UX design for me even faster, I would personally ensure that I have feedback, because it is the third necessary component to master UI design in the fastest way. Because of course you can, beat it with repetition. You can just create so many user interface designs that eventually you will see the differences between good ones and bad ones yourself. And being completely honest, this is how I ramped up my UI design skill. But it took me like 3 years, I'm not joking, and I used to be working in agencies where we had clients coming into our doors monthly, daily, or whatever. So I had a lot of practice, but still, when I figured out that my visual design skill is not on the level I wanted to be able to find a job in a nice company, working on a nice big product, it took me enormous amount of time figuring this out. Unfortunately, back then, it was really challenging to find a mentor, to find a UX club or whatever. And I must say to you, I even did not know that this is the option. Now you definitely know that the various options exist. You can find a mentor, you can ask your friend to mentor you, or you can join my UX club. We also have their UI challenges, and you can bring your UI experiments for me to review. By the way, if you like this video and you want to receive more videos like that, give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button down below. That's important for me and for YouTube algorithms. And we are moving on. Next, when I start getting good feedback from my mentors about the quality of my visual design, and when I can tell myself that what I see on Dribbble is not drastically different from what I produce in my Figma, then I'm ready to move on and I'm ready to start producing my final case studies for my portfolio. I personally believe that producing portfolio projects before you have the sufficient skill in visual design is the waste of time. Because I can guarantee you those projects will not get you hired. It's like, in order to cook a really nice cheesecake, you need to first try it out and produce the cheesecakes that are probably mediocre. But eventually, if you want to be hired in a nice restaurant, I can guarantee you that you will have to produce this final amazing looking cheesecake, make photo shoots, place it in your portfolio, and only after that you can have a chance of being hired. But most people, they do the first attempt, they do mistakes there, inevitably, it is perfectly fine. Then they make photo shoots of these mistakes and they place it in their portfolio. Of course, in the beginning you have nothing better and it's fine. And you think that your work from a Google UX certification is the best what you have. But just realize that it's only the beginning, it's your first attempt, you just tried out the waters. So I personally would start producing the final projects for my portfolio only after I have the sufficient UI skill. And at this stage, I would choose from the programs and options that will help me to do it in the fastest way. Because to produce a really solid, nice looking case study, it will take you a month or month and a half. And this is just the reality, and it can even take you longer than that, and it's perfectly fine because you eventually want them to look good. So this is the point when you can consider joining a bootcamp or a UX hackathon. I actually also have a UX hackathon, check the link in the description if we have a cohort open, but any program really would do here. Again, only if you want to cut on the time that it takes you to transition. You can, of course, produce the case studies on your own, especially if you have a nice mentor. Maybe you have found a mentor already on the previous stages that you want to work with together longer. So how many projects do I need for my portfolio to stand out? The answer is that I would need 4 projects. Most people, they have only 3 projects, and up until recently it was the industry standard. It was enough to get hired, especially during the pandemic. The time has changed, and right now, in order to stand out, you need to put slightly more work in your portfolio. Then how would I find ideas for my portfolio projects? I would actually look at the products that I use daily, and I would try to find an idea that could enhance the user experience there. For example, I use Notion every day. I even have the script for this video open there. So I would probably think, okay, what is my daily usage experience of Notion? Where did I wish they had a functionality that was missing? For me, for example, because I read a lot of articles in order to prepare a free weekly UX digest. By the way, the link on this free digest I will include there in the description as well. And I'm really missing the functionality of bookmarking what I read and sending it directly to Notion. So what I could do for my portfolio project is that I could design a plugin, for example, that will allow me to do that will allow me to save either the article or a quote from it. Those projects, they are the best for the fake projects because you already have a design system and some guidelines in place that you have to mind while creating your features. And 99% of work in UX design will be exactly this. You are working on the projects that someone else has created and maintained for many years, and you will be adding new functionalities in these products or enhancing the existing ones. And on top of that, by the choice of the products, you are showing me as a hiring manager who you are as a person. What do you do? What are your interests? So really picking well-known products and enhancing their user experience is the recipe for success, but you will have to be mindful about one downside of fake projects. Fake projects don't have real-world friction. Because of course, when you're working on a team and you're making a proposal, you need to collaborate with others, and others will definitely have their own opinions why something that you propose will not work. But luckily, we can emulate some frictions in our fake projects in order to make them more realistic. Namely, we can go and talk with real users. For example, if I am creating a new functionality for Notion, I can make some designs, create a prototype, and then go and find people who also use Notion and show them my prototypes. By having real usability tests, you will show that you know how to do them, that you know that gathering feedback from users is important, but also you will get some real-world feedback that you will then implement in your design to strengthen them. And eventually, my goal would be to have a nice story told with my portfolio. A story about why I've picked projects that I picked. And then the story of how I initiated the problem myself, I explored it with real users, I prototyped a solution, and then I tested this solution with real users. And this is the story every hiring manager would be pleased to hear from a starting UX designer. Because eventually we want to work with people who are self-organized and can initiate things, especially in tech, where initiatives and innovation is always on the top of the values. So once I'm done with 4 projects in my portfolio and I'm satisfied by how they look and my mentors are telling me that they are fantastic, I can go and start preparing for job applications. The job application package for UX designer consists of 3 things. It's your CV, your portfolio, and your LinkedIn page. Optionally, for some companies, you will require a cover letter, but let's be honest, you can write one with ChatGPT. Of course, it's not that straightforward and you will have to know some tips. So I have created a CV and cover letter bundle and it is now discounted. The link will be down in the description. So go and check it out if you want some tips from me on how to write your CV and cover letters. But eventually you will have to have this package ready. When preparing that, I would care about one particular thing that is often overlooked. And this thing is my personal branding. I would make sure that my website, CV, cover letter, and LinkedIn are all designed sort of in a package. What I mean by that is that ideally they will have to have some recognizable pieces of designs where a hiring manager or recruiter could tell that they belong to one person. You don't really need to be super precise about that, but caring about a visual style and user experience of your own job application is actually a good sign, showing that you care about user experience everywhere for every person that you deal with. Also, if I'm making a transition from one one professional field to another, I will make sure that I have at least one project in my portfolio that is connected with my previous job. For example, if I am transitioning from working in retail, I would make sure that I create a project where I add a functionality or increase the existing user experience in the tools that I use there daily at my current work. And I would make sure that this package that I send to recruiters is conveying this story, that I used to work as a retail professional, then I started interested in UX design, and I started improving my life and the life of others around me with my user experience design knowledge. So this is the best strategy for career switchers from non-UX background. I have a free mini course for career switchers if you want to dive in depth to this strategy. The link will be down in the description, as you guessed. But once I have this package ready, I would of course start applying to the jobs. But currently, we are not given that many chances to practice our interviews on field, meaning that every interview that comes our way, we shall already perform our best. So knowing that, I would practice interviews while applying to the jobs to make sure that every opportunity that comes my way, I can seize it. I actually also have a course for preparing job interviews for UX designers. The link will be down below. See if there are cohorts open. But of course, you can hire a mentor. You can even find them for free. You can hire a career specialist. Some bootcamps, they even offer you career support programs after you finish. So it does not matter how you would do this. I would just make sure that I have some practice and rehearsals before I go to actual interviews. It is especially important for UX designers because on job interviews we will need to solve design challenges, and most companies, they see how you perform and solve the design challenge real time. This job interview type is called whiteboard challenge, and of course on my course we are practicing the whiteboard challenge extensively. We even have 2 workshops dedicated to different types of whiteboard challenges that you might encounter. But knowing how to pass the challenges, how hiring managers assess your answers, and how to perform your best under pressure, it is only possible to achieve through some repetitions and rehearsals before diving actually to interviews. And previously, during the pandemic, for example, when the tech industry was growing, it was kinda easy to practice on the incoming interviews. So just from a simple try and error, you can see what works and what's not. And this is how I learned passing job interviews and design challenges myself. I have to be clear about that. But that was back then. If I would have to make a transition to UX design in 2025, I would account for not receiving that many chances to try out and fail. And this is it. This is what I would do if I would need to have a transition to UX design right now in 2025. This recipe that I have given you is based on me teaching UX designers daily for the past 2 years and by hiring designers in our teams. So I definitely know that this strategy works, although it might be different from what you hear from other UX designers, where the most frequent advice is to join a bootcamp. I don't think it is a wrong advice. It's just I would not start investing huge piles of money, because bootcamps, they can be quite costly, before I am deadly sure that it is something that I want to do. And also I see that many people, they start on a bootcamp without having sufficient command of Figma and without having enough knowledge about UI design. And most bootcamps, they are condensed and quite fast-paced. So if you have to simultaneously master Figma, improve your UI design, but also produce a case study for your portfolio, it's just a big overload. And I see that people get out from even the most expensive, most fantastic, most well-known bootcamps without having great projects in their portfolio, because either they could not produce them at the required speed because they did not have enough knowledge and enough command in Figma, or what they produce is not on the level that will bring them job because the UI is not on the industry standard level. And frankly, that means that this bootcamp is wasted and people will have to make a step back, improve Figma, improve UI, and then make new projects for their portfolio or make facelifts for the existing projects from a bootcamp. It's just a lot of work and a lot of time waste. I'm all about efficiency and time. I would definitely prioritize the speed of transition because, well, I'm this type of a person, but also I know that the industry changes really fast and the strategies that might work in 2025, they might not work in 2027, for example. And I would just want it that this weird time when I'm in between jobs, when I'm still working in my previous career but doing transitions in my free time is over as fast as possible. So think about the system and the strategy that I gave you. If it feels right, then go and check the links that I included down in the description, because many of the things that I mentioned there will help you on this journey. And I would definitely keep you updated if the strategy will change anytime soon. So if you like this video and you want to receive more videos like that, hit the subscribe button down below and click the bell. This way you will get a notification when a new video comes out. And I see you next time.